SRAM guide, level T. Hey everybody, I'm Mike Levy. We're here in Sedona, Arizona for our annual field trip where we test value bikes. And this good looking gray machine is Commencal's Meta TR29 Ride, a $2,599 trail bike with 130 millimeters of rear wheel travel and 150 millimeters up front. Okay, so let's talk about geometry first. I'm 5'10" and that puts me on a large with a 475 millimeter reach. Up front, your head angle, 66.5, and a relatively steep seat angle at 76.5 degrees. Now all the sizes from small to extra large sport 434 millimeter chainstays. Okay, so let's take a closer look at this aluminum frame, including its rear suspension design. It's a single pivot linkage activated system that compresses a RockShox Deluxe Select Plus shock. That's a bit of a tongue twister. Now there's a whole bunch of details on this frame that are worth mentioning, including 2 places to store a water bottle, one inside the front triangle and one outside on top of the thick down tube protector. Speaking of protector, the chainstay protector is really well thought out and it's very effective and very quiet. A couple other things to note. Cable routing is done really well and the pivot hardware looks like something that you would see on a bike that costs $6,000, not $2,600. Drivetrain duties are handled by SRAM again. This is a 12-speed NX system that they're using a GX crank with. So that means you get a really wide range, including that 50-tooth cargo pack that lets you climb straight up the side of a building. Braking, SRAM level Ts. They're 2-piston brakes, but up front you got a big boy 200 millimeter rotor and out back, 180 millimeter rotor. Enough talking about the details. We've been riding this bike for the last 2 weeks here in Sedona, so let's cover that. Commencal Meta TR29. Let's talk about setup. Casimir, what did you do?
Yeah, first thing, get that suspension set up. The shock ran about 30% sag.
That's a little bit more than some of the other bikes.
Yeah, this bike has 130 millimeters of rear travel. So on some of the slightly longer travel bikes, I'd run 25% just so they wouldn't feel like they're bobbing up and down. But found with this one, that 30% worked well. About 75 pounds in that Revelation fork. Again, right in line with the setup guide, so pretty straightforward.
And tubeless tires, ready to go. And there you have it. We pretty much just did that and hit the trails.
If you're familiar with the look of Commencal's other bikes, this one looks a lot like their enduro bikes. But then you look at the numbers on paper, actually has not that much travel. You know, it's their trail bike, 130 mils in the rear, 150 up front. But climbing, it does feel different than those big enduro slides. It's actually pretty good. Yeah,
when you look at the bike, it definitely looks like a very aggressive bike, and it kind of has that I don't care about the climbs air to it, but it's surprisingly capable on the climbs. There's a lot of traction. The seat angle is bang on. It's 76.5 effective. It does look a little bit odd because it sits so forward of the bottom bracket, but the seat ends up exactly where you want it.
Yeah, the climb position, nice and comfortable. You're sitting right where you want to be. I did find that the amount of traction was a little less than, say, the YT Jeffsy. It does have a little more travel. It felt like it was a little more supple off the top, but it's a nitpick. It climbs very well.
Yeah, I think this is going to climb as well as anybody needs who would buy a bike like this. It has a pedal assist switch on the shock. I mean, there's 130 millimeters of travel. If you have to reach for the switch, something's wrong, I think, anyway. And I mean, you never had to reach for it.
No, I didn't have to reach for it. Yeah? There's plenty of support there.
He was about to disagree with me, but then he admitted that he didn't have to touch it.
I don't mind. Yeah, it doesn't matter either way if there's a climb switch or not. In this case, it's there if you wanted it, but I don't think you'll have to use it.
Yeah, no, it pedals extremely well. And like we said, it's capable on the technical stuff too. I didn't have any extra dabs or anything like that. And it doesn't feel overly long.
Yeah, it's very manageable. You know, it might have the appearance of a big brute, but it's actually pretty manageable and pretty fun bike, even on the climbs.
It feels like a trail bike on the climbs, even though, I mean, it looks like a big burly all mountain bike sitting right here. Definitely a trail bike on the climbs. Okay, so you climb to the top of the hill, you got that behind you, it's all over with. This bike feels like it was made for the downs.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good.
Solid.
Yeah, and especially for a 130 millimeter bike, which you think that's your light and kind of nimbly bimbly trail bike, but you can smash some stuff with this.
Nimbly bimbly.
It's a new term. It's going to catch on real soon.
This is definitely not nimbly bimbly in any sense of the words, whatever they mean.
Yeah, it's just a fun trail smasher. I mean, you go fast, hit your line, and it's going to stay solid.
Yeah, it feels extremely solid. It holds the line. When you're going over that rough, choppy stuff, especially in the corners, it doesn't feel as upset. It stays more composed, and that kind of air of solidness about it, like, it gives you a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I think supportive is the theme here. You know, you've got not a ton of travel, but it makes the most out of it. It's not going to totally erase every obstacle in your way, but it's also not going to go through its travel too quickly or not use enough. It's just really well balanced.
Yeah, I never felt like I needed to put a volume spacer in the shock. That's at 30% sag on a 130 millimeter travel bike. I mean, there's some square, hard hits out there that don't feel good. And the bike didn't feel like it blew through its travel. I mean, the hits didn't feel great, but the bike felt great.
Yeah, it's solid.
So one of the big takeaways for me here with the Commencal is it feels like just the right mix of, you know, slack and capable enough, but not so much that it takes away all of the trail bike feeling. I think some of that comes down to the suspension. I mean, it's just 130 millimeters, it's well sorted. But the Geo just feels good and ready for anything, whether it's normal trail bike riding or smashing.
Yeah, they didn't go super far with it, which it kind of applies to Commencal's bikes across the board. They kind of take things in moderation. And so it has a 66.5 degree head angle, which isn't the slackest, but it just feels right for this bike, well suited to what we were riding.
Yeah, you don't have to go overboard, right? Like,
Yeah,
sometimes it's fine to be conservative and it works out great.
Yeah, and a bike it's more than just one number. So you take all those numbers together, it turns out, you get the right recipe, you can end up with something like this.
All right, let's talk about timing now. Casimir, what were your times like on this bike?
I wasn't that fast on this bike. I think my times end up somewhere 7 out of 8 or so. And then a couple others, I think, in the middle of the pack. So
Why do you think that is?
I'm not really sure. We found that how we felt on the bike didn't always correlate with what the clock said. It wasn't the fastest, but that's all right. I didn't feel like it was a slow bike when I was on it. And to me, that matters more than what a few lap times say.
Yeah, and I also think this bike is probably more capable than our test loop is ready for. You know, like, I think a rougher track, this thing is going to be quicker than the other bikes for sure. So for me, I had my third fastest time in the loop, my third fastest time on the climb, and my third fastest time on the descent. Overall, you know, it just feels solid. Okay, it's time to get into some details here. The fork, it's a revelation. It's definitely not as good as a pike with the Charger damper, but if you've never ridden a pike, like, this thing is never gonna hold you back. We're spoiled with the latest and the greatest, best of the best, $1,000 forks. You know, if I had to spend the next year on this fork, I would be just fine with it, and I think that says a lot.
Other components, you got those tires, the Schwalbe tires. The tread pattern's great. They are the least expensive tread compound. So if you're picky about things like that, if you notice that your tire is a little bit harder, not quite as grippy, that might be something to think about. But you probably could just run them until they're bald and upgrade to something nicer after that.
Just skid a lot and then buy new ones.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, it's got those level T brakes. Personally, I'd like to see 4-piston brakes on this bike, just because the way it makes
300-pound Casimir here needs 4-piston brakes on his trail bike.
I like to be able to stop easily, quickly, just be in control. You know, like I said, nice, there's a 200 millimeter rotor, but even those guide T brakes like we see on the YT Jeff seat, those just feel better, 4 pistons. So that's something I might consider changing or would like to see different on this bike.
A couple other little things. These aren't deal breakers, but they're nice little touches. House branded stem and handlebar. It says Alpha on it. It's nothing special. It's just like aluminum stuff that works well. And you know, it looks pretty nice too. It also comes with some nice lock-on grips. Just little things you're not going to have to buy. You won't have to spend $30 on a set of lock-on grips that comes with them.
Yeah, comes well sorted out of the box. Even the dropper post, got that KS post, that lever design, super nice.
One final little detail is the chainstay protector. I mean, it looks like this thing belongs on a $10,000 bike, not a, how much is this?
$2,600.
$2,600 bike. It works really well and it's well thought out.
Really, I wouldn't change anything right away. I would just ride it until things started to wear out. You know, eventually I'd probably swap the tires out for something with a softer rubber compound, start saving my pennies, maybe get some stronger, more powerful brakes on there. You don't need to brake apparently, but I do. But either way, out of the box, it's ready to roll.
3rd, 7th on our times.
Yeah, but I could go faster with better brakes maybe. The brakes holding down.
But I think overall, I mean, there's not a lot to change here. If I was to nitpick, the NX shifter, it's not matchmaker compatible. You have that SRAM brake on there. If it was a matchmaker compatible shifter, you could mount it to the same perch and it wouldn't be quite a reach. I have little tiny hands compared to Casimir's huge hands, so it was a bit of a stretch for me. So, but that's...
Either way, you could even get a shifter for $40 or $50 that would fix that. So again, out of the box, nothing really needs to be changed, but a couple little things you could swap out as time goes on.
Okay, so what's our big takeaway here, Casimir?
Yeah, this is just a nice solid trail bike.
Yeah, it definitely straddles the line. Like, I know it's just 130 millimeters, but it straddles that line of trail bike all mountainy. But if you want a very capable trail bike and you don't need to have the lightest one, this is a good option.
Yeah, it suits my riding style well. I know you know, someone that's focused on the downhills but wants to have a decent time on the uphill. This is the bike.
Yeah, good job, Commencal.
Well, there you have it. That's the Commencal Meta TR29. Stay tuned for more videos for our Pinkbike field trip in Sedona, Arizona, as well as a roundtable discussion where we talk about the highs and lows of all the bikes we have here on test.